Okay, so we've got FastJet entering the South African market at the end of May, which is a welcome thing. And of course, they'll have to land at an airport, those FastJet A319 Airbuses. And they'll be likely landing at an airport that is run by AXA. Now, the Airports Company South Africa's network of 9 airports provides the connectivity, it says here, accessibility and location for economic growth and development locally and globally. The company's flagship airport, OR Tambo International in Johannesburg, has been viewed as the aerotropolis model for Africa, and it's proud to host to be the host airport alongside the city of Ekurhuleni as Africa's first Airport Cities World Conference and Exhibition, taking place at Emperor's Palace from the 24th to the 26th. Aerotropolis, what is that? In the Johannesburg studio is Kevin Thomas, the Property Development Manager, Airports Company South Africa. Kevin, thanks for joining us. Well done on the conference, first of all, but what interests me more is Aerotropolis. What is it?
Yeah, thanks, Lindsay. Aerotropolis is quite a well-known concept now globally. What you've actually got is it's based on an old town planning concept of hub and spoke. And what it really does is actually looks at developmental nodes centered around airports. If you can imagine, in the old days we used to have city airports where the airport was several kilometers or miles outside town for obvious reasons in terms of safety and noise. And now they've become destinations in their own right, and they are now actually known as airport cities. And airport cities actually form the epicenter of an aerotropolis. So I always liken it to when you drop a stone in the middle of a pond, or in terms of the middle of a lake, and you've got a whole series of concentric rings going out from there. If you can imagine, where you drop the stone is the runways and the taxiways and the terminals, and then you've got concentric circles of property development that take place further out from that central stone. Obviously, the closer to the runways and terminals, you've got aviation activity, and then obviously it breaks out and actually diversifies into a far broader and greater range of development.
I read an article once many years ago that said if you want to make money out of air travel, you don't start up an airline like FastJet or Virgin or whatever it is. You actually buy the land around the airport itself, because air travel is going to grow and the land will become valuable. I suppose it's a sort of part of the aerotropolis concept.
Absolutely, 100%. It's all about, coin the old property development phrase, location, location, location. I mean, airports by themselves, by their own definition, are superbly located in terms of the connectivity. And then you've got to understand, it's from a property development point of view, again, is that they're flat, they're well serviced. So in this day and age, which is key to have your bulk services there, your electricity, your water, your sewage, your roads is all in place. And they're secure, they're national key points. So that makes sense. And I think it's particularly relevant that this conference has come to Africa at this point in time, because if you look at Africa as an emerging continent as such, and bearing in mind this conference has been going for 11 years, this is the first time it's actually been hosted by Africa. We need to understand what we're actually looking at. Where you've got public transport issues and so on, connectivity becomes absolutely key. And therefore, to develop around airports, as you said, it's an extremely nice opportunity for the capitalists amongst us.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just the Gautrain example is a fantastic one, because Gautrain was probably, I'm speaking from a position of ignorance here, but Gautrain was probably conceived in order to connect to OR Tambo International. But then they said, well, let's go to Pretoria as well, let's go to the CBD of Johannesburg. And of course, taxi drivers are starting to benefit or not. And there's so many different things as air travel increases that are beneficial to the economy. Where does AXA fit into the whole concept of Aerotropolis?
Well, in essence, AXA is the provider and manager of airport infrastructure for South Africa, and as such, is obviously therefore it's incumbent upon them to actually ensure that the facilities and the assets are optimized. And as you say, Lindsay, that's quite an interesting angle you've taken, because it's not just about the runways and the taxiways and the terminal buildings and security and immigration, all those good things that we all are subjected to when we actually go in and out of airports. It's the assets around it, and what we're realizing now, of course, is that there are lots of dormant assets at all of our airports. I mean, this is not just unique to OR Tambo. What we're seeing now development even in the domestic airports, because it's prime property. And that's really a way of obviously beneficiating these assets to the benefit of the government and therefore the country as a whole.
What about, here's a question that you sent me earlier on. It says, at what stage are the plans to accelerate airport city development in South Africa? It's a good question.
It is a good question, and I think that where we are is that actually we're quite a long way down the line of Aerotropolis development at a number of the airports, in actual fact. And what's now happened is we've got tremendous buy-in and support from all tiers of government, and this is key. This is the only way you can accelerate it. And but one needs to understand, you're not going to wake up tomorrow and all of a sudden there's going to be all these buildings and stuff all around you. It's actually a journey. It's a process. It's not a project, and therefore it's all related to the planning processes, environmental impact assessments, provision of, as I've mentioned already, of bulk services and so on. And we've got tremendous support from Ecoleni, who are the main sponsor and host of this conference over the next couple of days. But we've also got buy-in from province and national. And it's key, because obviously you've got to try and accelerate that. And we all know property development is an emotive thing. When you make a decision, you want to go and invest, that's where you want your office to be, that's what you want your warehouse to be, your shop, whatever. You want it to happen extremely quickly. And this is what's actually happening at the moment in South Africa. It's great news.
When you fly to London, which I do occasionally, you have to go in a holding pattern for about 20 minutes, flying in between 6 and 8 in the morning, because there is so much traffic. Is there any point in the future that you might see that similar situation occurring at OR Tambo International, and therefore places like Lanseria, or maybe even another site being developed to make a second or third airport in South Africa's biggest city?
Lindsay, good question. What's actually happened at OR Tambo is there's plenty of land, and the master planning, you've heard me say already that the whole process with regard to Aerotropolis development is pretty substantial. And what we've actually got is we've already got plans afoot to actually bring in additional runways. So that will actually obviously relieve a lot of the air traffic space issues.
Who's going to be at the conference?
Conference is attended by all and sundry major key players, obviously in the aviation industry globally, CEOs from aviation-related aspects, but also developers themselves, and and also obviously there's the normal networking opportunity for a whole series of slew of consultants and guys who actually obviously see an opportunity of actually capitalising on the opportunities that say presented by us. But it's well supported. We actually did a presentation this morning of 240 people. There's about 800 delegates in all, and as you've heard us say, it's the first time in Africa, and there's a lot of interest here. Southern Africa, as a developmental node, is looking very, very good.